Back during Descent of Dragons, there was a brand new hero mechanic introduced. This was called Galakronds.
Descent of Dragons is a cool set name for the record. I just want to say.
For the record, by the way, on top of your record, it was a phenomenal set. It was the last expansion before they ruined the game with Demon Hunter. So great.
Oh, excellent. Great. Great timing.
Great timing. There was a brand new mechanic. It was called Galakrond. I'm going to show you what that is very soon. But one of these Galakronds was considered, if not, well, I mean, during this era, it was actually the strongest deck of all time until Demon Hunter came out. Your job...
This is very funny that your video is... Okay, anyway,
I know. I was actually thinking about it while we were recording. Your job today is to tell me which of the Galakronds you thought was the most broken on release that they had to nerf it like pretty fast. Otherwise, it would have destroyed the meta.
What is a Galakrond?
I'm about to show you.
Record?
Before I show you what a Galakrond is, because it's for 5 of the classes. Yeah, 5 of the classes. I have to first introduce you to the invoke mechanic. Okay, so I'm going to show you this card right here.
We have invoked in Yu-Gi-Oh. Okay,
what does invoke do in Yu-Gi-Oh? I'm curious now that you said
it's
that.
A whole. Well, it's not a keyword. It's a whole archetype. It's like the invoked archetype. Anyway, go on.
So this is Devoted Maniac. This is a 4-mana 2/2 neutral minion. This is important because I'm going to show you 2 other neutral minions here. This one has Rush, which you're obviously familiar with, and then has the battle cry to invoke Galakrond. What invoking means, and this will make a lot more sense when I actually get to the Galakrond. Unfortunately, there's no like neutral Galakrond. They're all for classes, and I don't want to show you one yet because I need to introduce everything. Invoking means that you will proc the Galakrond's hero power and you will take it upwards, and you have to take it a total of 4 times in order for it to get to its final form. So if you invoke twice, it'll go from its basic form to its intermediate form. If you invoke it 4 times, it goes to its final version. I promise you this will make a lot more sense as we continue going. I'm just showing
I think I get it. Okay. I think I get it.
I'm just showing you the neutral pool first to remind yourself that like this is like half the cards for this mechanic. That you would
was this like the main mechanic for this set, or is this just like a
That's a great question. I'm going to explain that with like a really long-winded story here. This is the year of the rise of Shadow, okay? This was an organization that they decided to split half the classes. At this point, there was 9, but they wanted to split half the classes into evil and good. The whole year is an overarching story on how arch-villain Rafam wanted to basically take over the world, and his ultimate strategy was to use Galakrond as the final piece of the puzzle, but Reno stopped him, and Reno's part of the good classes.
You had the lore and everything.
The lore and everything. Well, this maybe other than Ungoro, this was my favorite year of Hearthstone. I love this year. This is also the same year with Twin Spell, which you really, really liked.
Oh, I love Twin Spell. I'm in. Is there a Twin Spell invoke?
No. So that's the thing, right? So the evil classes got invoke. During the year, during the expansion of Rise of Shadows, only the good classes got Twin Spell. Like that was kind of like the gimmick.
Oh, so they got got it. Okay.
So that's how they kind of like did the classes.
That's kind of
cool
that they did that. Yeah, that's kind of neat.
It was
all right.
I think they did the year really well. It was a lot. I can go like a whole tangent on how good this year was. Anyways, that's your first one.
Was this okay? Let me ask this. This probably isn't super relevant. Did I know you love this? Was this like a beloved time in Hearthstone generally, or was this just like you loved this?
So I think. Okay, the year before this
was a hard question for you to answer, obviously, but I'm just curious.
The year before this was Genbaku, which I've kind of alluded to. I've never like really gone through a whole video with you, but Genbaku was like upgrading your hero power, so every game kind of felt the exact same way. So when they rotated it a year early, this year kind of had like a huge breath of fresh air going into it. Rise of Shadows was it was a good set. There was just an unfortunate meta where like control was like the only thing you could do, and it was like 50-minute games, and people don't want to play that, obviously. But then Savers of Uldum,
some people do.
I mean, it gets really tiresome.
Our co-host CGB, I think, would thoroughly enjoy that, but you know, he's not here, so
that's fair. Okay, I didn't mind it. I liked Rise of Shadows. The expansion after was Savers of Uldum. That was my favorite expansion of all time. I think it's the best expansion Hearthstone's ever released because of just class variety and deck power. It was really well done. And then it was Descent of Dragons, which was a very powerful expansion to finish off the year. It was a good year. People like the lie. And obviously Descent of Dragons is like super hype. So it was a good year. Anyways, you saw Devoted Maniac, so that's the first neutral card. There's then this one. If you want to start, you can start reading these.
Shield of Galakrond, 5-mana 4/5 taunt with Battlecry, invoke Galakrond. Very simple. All right.
Very simple. Okay, and then last but not least, we got one legendary that's a neutral for the Galakron mechanic.
Okay. This is Kronk's Dragonhoof, 6-mana 6/6 Battlecry. Draw Galakrond. If you're already Galakrond, unleash a devastation. So is Galakrond a hero?
Galakrond is a hero.
Okay.
Which we'll get to very shortly. The reason I'm going to show you Kronks, though, is because Kronks was basically an auto include. You could,
because it just adds consistency to get to him.
Well,
yeah,
it's consistency, but honestly, on average, you would actually want to play Kronks when you're already Galakrond. You could read the Devastation.
Oh, for the Devastation?
Yeah, because most of them are very good.
Oh, there's multiple of these. Okay. So do you get to pick? Is it like you pick like all four of these show up and you pick one? Is that how it works?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So Annihilation for 0 mana, deal 5 damage to all other minions. That's broken. Decimation for 0 mana, deal 5 damage to the enemy hero, restore 5 hero to your health. Domination is 0 mana, give your other minions +2/+2. And Reanimation is 0 mana, summon an 8/8 dragon with taunt. Okay.
So you could see that, like, as much as it's nice to draw your Galakrond, you really wanted to use Kronks as a Devastation because it was so good. So much so.
Is there
that
another way to get a Devastation, or is this the only way?
This is the only way you can get a Devastation. This is basically.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So the way that I'm going to do this is like the King of the Hill format, like last time, because I think it's easier to compare it to a new Galakrond rather than giving you all of them at once and you decide, because there's quite a lot of information here. I will let you know that Kronks was an auto include no matter what. Like, you playing Galakrond,
seems like it.
Kronks is going in your deck. Shield of Galakrond and Devoted Maniac was a question because every class that got a Galakrond also had invoke cards. So you could make a decision on how much redundancy you actually wanted to get to make sure that your Galakrond was fully invoked before you played it. And that you will see why that's relevant with the very first one. Okay, so I'm going to show you the first Galakrond. This is for Warrior.
Okay, so my goal is to figure out which one of these is the best. All right, so this is a 7 mana Galakrond for 5. It gives you 5 armor. It's a hero. The battle cry, draw a minion, give it +4/+4, invoke twice to upgrade. Okay, so then basically as you invoke, like, the intermediate or advanced form has like better abilities essentially.
Yeah, so I will actually just show you the total of them. So you can see all 3 versions of it as you continue going bigger and
so
bigger.
then the second one is draw 2 minions, which I figured that was what they were going to do. And the final form, I like how the art changes. That's pretty cool. Yeah. The final form is draw 4 minions. They all get +4/+4, which is the same. But then you also get a 5/2 claw in addition to all of that. Okay, I get it.
The 5/2 claw is just a weapon, just for the record.
Right. So the base form is this. You invoke twice to get to the intermediate form, and then you invoke twice again to get to the final form. So you have to invoke 4 total times. To get,
4 total times. Yes. Okay. So on top of that, like I said, if you invoke with a card, not only do you get your Galakrond to get stronger as you continue going through the game, you also use its hero power. So it's important to show you what the hero power for the Warrior one was.
Oh, so you do hero power. That makes sense. Okay. Galakrond's Might. Give your hero +3 attack this turn. Very interesting for Warrior because it's like the opposite of like what Warrior typically does. Okay.
We're like smacking stuff. So when you go back up to Devoted Maniac, now you're going to read it as 4 mana 2/2 rush, battle cry, give your hero +3 attack this turn, and invoke Galakrond.
Sure.
So that's the way you want to look at it from the time being. On top of that, Warrior got invoke cards. Every class got 3 class cards to invoke, or that interact with invoke, I should say. Here's the first one.
Okay. God, you're making me read like Yu-Gi-Oh amounts of text here.
Ritual
really... Chopper. It's a 2 mana 1/2 with battle cry, invoke Galakrond. Very simple. Okay.
And then you have this one. This is very reminiscent of the video you just did. It's actually very funny. I did not plan this.
It's funny. Yeah, we must have been on the same wavelength for this. Awaken, 3 mana, invoke Galakrond, deal 1 damage to all minions. That seems pretty good.
Okay, and then this is your invoke payoff other than Galakrond. Okay. And you can see the synergy of the Galakrond into this card.
Scion of Ruin, cool name. 3 mana, 3/2 with rush, battle cry. If you've invoked twice, summon 2 copies of this. Interesting.
So if you draw this with the +4/+4, all the copies get the +4/+4 as well. So it's a huge.
Oh, they do.
It's a huge swing turn. Okay, so that's the Warrior.
Okay.
I think Warrior's the easiest one to kind of get through. It's the easiest to digest. Any questions on how Galakrond interacts or thoughts on the Galakrond for Warrior?
No, it seems pretty simple. I mean, obviously you want to get this to like the final. I imagine you want to get all of them to the final form because like drawing 4 and giving everything a +4/+4 buff and then giving yourself a weapon on top of it seems pretty fucking good.
It was good. It was good.
Yeah. And we're all okay. Here's a question. Were all of these good? Or are there some that are like bad? Like, 'cause I know I'm trying to find the best one, but were they all good?
I'm going to describe it as throughout its entire time in standard, they were all playable. Like there was a moment where all of these were playable. Okay. There was
That's what I want to know.
But there was one that was like, especially when, I mean, it had to be nerfed. Otherwise it would have dominated the game. It would have been interesting to see how it would have competed against Demon Hunter. But it was so
pre-Demon Hunter.
This is pre-Demon Hunter. You're looking for the one that was like tier 0, like unironically tier 0.
Yeah.
So do you think the Warrior one was good? Well, not good, but was a high tier deck throughout its time.
The weapon seems like whatever. Like maybe you would just play it just to invoke it, but like I feel like Awaken and Scion of Ruin are like way better. But it's like, would you play the Ritual Chopper over like the other neutrals? Because I feel like the Shield of Galakron is like fine because it's like a 5-mana 4/5 with taunt. Like it's not like the greatest minion, but at least it has taunt and at least it invokes. I feel the Devoted Maniac being 4 mana for a 2/2 with Rush is like not really great by itself. But it does still invoke, so like maybe you would still play it anyway, just because like you're just trying to get this huge payoff.
Yeah, it's funny you say that too, is because a lot of people would often run the Shield of Galakron, but not the Devoted Maniac.
I feel like that, like just from card game knowledge, that just seems right. I don't like maybe some decks would play Devoted Maniac, but I feel like most of them would play Shield of Galakron anyway because it's just like a fine minion by itself, like in addition to invoking. So like from a Yu-Gi-Oh brain, you're trying to squeeze every ounce of value out of every card, right? So it's like, okay, this thing's good standalone anyway, like we'll just play it because it's good. And then it also just gives you a nice curve because it's like you have like Shield like on 5 and then like, you know, Galakron's coming on 7 ideally, so if you can get there. So it's really like, can you invoke him on 7, but then you also have to like draw him as well.
Yeah.
Because you said like you don't really want Kronks to search him, but like you want to draw him. And I guess it depends on which decks have like a good card draw as well. Because then it's like if you never see him, that's like an issue, right?
Yeah.
But Warrior can play the long game to like eventually see him, which is like a good thing for Warrior.
So the one thing about the Warrior one is the longer the game goes, potentially the worse the battle cry gets because you want to get maximum value. So the Warrior one especially is probably the one you would be willing to use Kronks on because you want it to find it. Sure. Also, the hero power. It's
interesting that it turns Wario into more aggro than more like defensive, which is like typically like how Warrior plays.
Typically, so let me ask you a question. Do you think the Warrior one was actually just used on its own, like no invoking, like you just run the Galakron on its own, just draw 1 minion, give it +4/+4, and get a new hero power or +3 damage?
Like, would you just that, like, and nothing else?
Just that.
Draw a minion, give it +4/+4, and then you get 5 armor
and the new hero power.
7
and the new
hero power.
Yeah.
If you're playing like Giga aggro, like maybe, but like I feel like that's such a high top end.
Okay.
I want to say no, to be honest.
Interesting with the Warrior one is that people would run it just for the Galakron because 3 damage a turn, like you said, Warriors like can be a really controlly deck, and all of a sudden now I have a win condition. Like
that's true.
Every turn I'm smacking you for 3 while I'm defending against your board. Like you're gonna have to start putting a little bit more pressure to fight against me.
Right. It like puts them on a clock.
Yeah. And then if you wanted to go for the full Galakron package, Warrior also had a really great one because you could play for like Tempo Warrior, and then all of a sudden like your armor smiths that used to be a 1/4 is now ginormous, and like your opponent now has to answer these questions on top of the hero power, right? So Warrior I think is a really good baseline to start you off with.
I think so.
It was good. Let's see what you think about Priest.
My favorite. Actually, no, Paladin. Paladin's the one
I'm gonna. Well, luckily for you, Paladin didn't get one. They
dodged.
They weren't an evil class.
Good. I like how the Priest is an evil class. That's funny.
All right, this is all
you had to
4.
get so many cards for me for this video. Holy shit. So first form is Battlecry, destroy a random enemy minion. That seems pretty good. Second form, destroy 2 random enemy minions. That also seems pretty good. For third form, destroy 4 random enemy minions, and you get a 5. Like you always get the cloth. That's very cute. And then Galakron's Wit is 2 mana. Add a random priest minion to your hand.
So again, when you invoke a card now, you read it as like Devoted Maniac is a 4 mana 2/2 rush. Battlecry, add a random priest minion to your hand. Now I will say priest minions they varied, right? Because depending on when it was in rotation, what they had in the pool, like it got better or worse. But as you could probably tell,
also, it's like you're drawing 2 cards every turn though. So like, it's still good.
Yes, exactly. Priest also has
like, even if they're not like the best, you know, I still think that's decent.
Yes. Okay. Here's the first invoke card for Priest.
Just a 1 mana 1/2. Okay, sure.
Here's the second one.
5 mana Time Rip. Destroy a minion. Invoke. God, all the destroy a minion spells. Jeez. Okay, sure.
Okay, and then here's the last one.
Fate Weaver. Cool card. 4 mana 3/6 Battlecry. If you invoke twice, reduce the cost of cards in your hand by 1. Ooh, mana cheating. We like that.
Okay, so now comparatively from Warrior, how do you think Priest does?
There's so much like just like destruction with this, which is like I like okay, what's like the going rate for like a kill spell in this game?
Okay, so for kill spell, let's say 5 to 4 mana depending on what it is. 4 mana for Rogue had Assassinate for 4 mana, I believe at this point. So which was just destroy an enemy minion.
Okay, sure. And that's like so like Time Rip is that, plus you're paying an extra 1 to invoke Galakrond. Because I feel like from like a control perspective, this card is really good, especially because it's just like you're always going to get immediate value off of it. Like the one issue with the Warrior one is like, yeah, you can draw 4 things, but like they're not reduced in cost. Like, yeah, they might be huge, but you still are limited with what you're able to do because of like the mana and stuff. Where this is like basically a board wipe in its final form. And then you're just basically getting to draw an extra card every turn, even if it's like, yeah, maybe say it's like 1.5 because like maybe the card's not good, but it's still another thing. So it gives you this like degree of inevitability where it's like you're never going to run out of like guys, and you can kind of just like whittle your opponent away in tandem with the fact that you're playing like board wipe stuff as well. I think that's really good. I think the priest stuff's better than the warrior stuff.
Okay, interesting.
To be honest.
Okay, so
from like a Yu-Gi-Oh perspective, I feel like this is like way better. Yeah, I feel like you've never shown me this much like mass removal before, like at once, you know, or not even mass removal, just like removal generally. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I don't know. I like the priest stuff. Like I like this a lot.
Okay. So you're going with the priest was so far the better one between the two of them.
Of the two, I want to say yes. I don't know. Like I just like the fact like, yeah, sure. It's more reactive because like if your opponent doesn't have anything, like then Galakrond is kind of bad. So that's like the only thing where I'm like kind of iffy on, where it's like with warrior, you can always play it and you're always getting the guys. And even if you have to slowly deploy them out, at least they're like giga buffed. And then like you can at least like kind of do stuff with them. I don't know. Am I talking myself out of it now? I guess like the thing is like, it's just like super reactive, but it's like very good reactive stuff. Aside from like Fate Weaver, he's kind of like proactive. So it's like, it's weird because if your opponent's not doing a lot, then like this isn't like particularly good. But if they are doing stuff, then you just like, it's weird because like they need to play into your stuff for this to be good. Where like the warrior can just be good in either instance. So maybe warrior is still better, but God, like this is just like, these seem so cool.
See, that is the inevitable problem Priest has had throughout its entire history, is that they do get good removal, but often like if your opponent's not playing into it, what's the point of having it? So you have to make a call pretty early on of like, do I want to just play the Galakron to start getting value? Like just hero powering every single turn.
Just for getting that hero powering every turn.
Yeah, that's your tempo, right? That's how you'd be proactive. So the question ends up being as well for you. Do you think the Galakron was just played on its own?
Just the battle cry, just pop 1.
Pop 1 for the hero power.
And you get 5 armor and you get the thing. I actually think, yeah, I think it would be. Just because like, even if you're just playing it on 7, you pop something, even if it's random. But if they have 1 thing, it's not random. Or if they have 2, it's like a 50-50, which is fine. But then like the fact that you just get to basically draw 2 cards every turn, it just like gives you something else to do. So like I could see it. Yeah.
Okay. If I remember correctly, the priest one was also played on its own because please tell me I've shown you Zephyros before. I have, right? I've shown you.
The guy that makes like the fake custom Reddit card. Yeah, you showed me.
No. He grants you a wish and it gives you a card based on the circumstances of the board. Have I shown you?
Yeah, he makes the custom Reddit card.
Okay,
yeah, exactly.
So that card was so good that even in like basically in Savers of Uldum, the good classes got Highlander effects, and Zephyros was the neutral of the Highlander effects. That card was so good that people would often try to make like the evil classes with Highlander because people wanted to add Zephyros to their deck. Priest would use a Highlander deck and Galakron as like a huge value engine in that deck just to run Zephyros. Like that would be a win condition for like the Priest class.
I could see that.
I won't tell you which one is better, but which one are you going to go for as we continue going here?
I think I talked myself out of Priest. I think Warrior is actually still better.
Okay, Warrior is better. Because it's
like, I'm going with it just solely on the fact that the Priest one is, all you're getting out of it if they're not playing into it is just like an extra card every turn. And I think that's still really good. I don't know. I feel like the Warrior stuff just feels like it's better more often. Okay. I feel like, I don't know. It's your game's so different because like combat matters a lot. So like you getting to draw 4 things that are buffed by 4/4 is like huge in terms of tempo potentially. But I don't know. I think I'm gonna go against my like Yu-Gi-Oh brain and say Warrior's better of these two.
Okay. I will tell you the answer to that question at the very end here.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, we'll go with the comparison of Warrior for now. Here is the Warlock one.
Okay. They all have the same name. It's just different color. Got it. Okay. So first form, Battlecry, summon a random demon. And then I imagine it's going to be 2 demons and it's probably going to be 4 demons, right? Yeah. Okay. I'm noticing the trend here. And then we have Galakron's Malice, which summons 2 1/1 imps.
Just for the sake of it, the imps are demons, but for the most part, you could treat them as 1/1s. I just don't.
They're just guys.
They're just guys.
Yeah. But like not priest. Like Warlock has stuff where it's like, kill one of your things to do like
exactly.
No, I get it. Yeah, it makes sense. All right, show me the other stuff.
Okay, here's that.
Dragon Blight Cultist. Cool name. 3 mana, 1/1, Battlecry Invoke. Gain +1 attack for each other friendly minion. Interesting. Okay.
So for the record, that would summon the minions first, and then you would get the buff, regardless. If you're playing on that end.
What do you wait?
So like that one would go. You would invoke Galakrond. You would get the 2 imps on board because of the fact that you're invoking. You proc the hero power. So then
invoking procs the hero power. I keep forgetting that.
Worst case scenario, it is a 3 mana 3/1 with 2 1/1 imps next to it.
Invoke only procs the hero power when it's your hero though.
No. At any point in the game.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Oh, did you? Oh,
I don't think you told me that, or I don't think I realized that.
Okay,
that's interesting.
Let's go up for a quick second here. Let's go up. So you brought up Ritual Chopper, right? Ritual Chopper, in theory, if you read it, like if we think about the Evoke package, is 2 mana the turn you play it. It has 4 attack because the hero power connects with it.
Right, because that's a big difference.
Yeah.
I don't think either you didn't say that or I didn't understand that, and the comments could figure that out.
Okay.
But
I think I said.
Okay, that makes a big difference.
Okay, so
because now when you're invoking the priest stuff, you're always getting a random extra.
You're always getting a yeah. So that's the more important thing here, right? Because you're putting that in specifically because like that's what I was saying with Devoted Maniac, right? Like you read it as 4 mana 2/2 rush, Battlecry, you invoke Galakron, and you get 3 attack. Like that's the way you wanted to read it. So that's so everyone going forward.
Good we figured this out now.
Okay, so every time you read Invoke, you have to think about the hero power is procced with it.
The hero power too.
And that's why it's interesting with Devoted Maniac, because you would often have to ask yourself, is it worth playing a 4 mana 2/2 with Rush, depending on what your Invoke would be? And like, do you need that extra?
Because like now with Warrior, it becomes a 4 mana 5/2 with Rush. Like that's a big difference.
Yes. Yeah. Like kind of like that. Yeah. And then this with the Warlock when you summon 2 extra 1/1s, right? So
okay. All right. Good thing we clarified this now. The video's not a wash yet. Good.
Okay, now that we understand that fully, let's read what does Fiendish Rites do?
Fiendish Rites. Invoke Galakrond, give your minions +1 attack. Okay, so you would get your 2 guys, and then they get their 2/1s, basically. Okay.
Yes, they're 2/1s, exactly. And then obviously if you have other minions on board.
I'm learning. I'm figuring this out now. I understand. Okay. This makes a huge difference.
Okay.
This makes a huge difference.
And then here's the Invoke here's like the payoff for Invoke.
Now I think Priest might be better than Warrior, but that's fine.
Okay, we can get back.
We might go back. We'll see. Veiled Worshipper. 4 mana 5/4 Battlecry. If you invoke twice, draw 3 cards. Okay. Well, Warlock doesn't really have. Well, granted, your hero power is different potentially, but okay. But like you already have the regular Warlock hero power, so like card draw is not really that big of a deal. I guess like if you already transformed, then the card draw is more valuable, which is
fair.
Interesting.
Yep.
Fiendish Rites is like whatever. Just gives you like 2/1s. I mean, granted, it can buff your other stuff, but like. I just don't like cards that are like that because like they're dead most of the time. So then Invoke Galakrond, gain +1 attack for each other friendly minion. So then it becomes a 3/1 on face.
Yeah, it'll come
if
in
you just have nothing else. It's
3/1 with 2
mana
1s.
3/1.
Yeah. Yep.
And the demons are from like the demon pool that's available at the current time. Like how good are the demons at this time, I guess, that you're getting off of this?
There are definitely some really good ones. There's also some low ones because the classic set was still in. So like the lowest you would probably get is like a 0 mana 0/1 at the end of turn, give a friendly minion +1 health. The high roll is like a Doomguard, like a 5 mana 5/7 with charge with no discard.
Okay, but like what's like that? What's like the median? Like, are you typically happy off of this?
I would say if you're let's say you're playing the big boy that you're getting 4 random demons, you'd probably be happy. Like you'd be happy.
That's what I'm curious about. Yeah, because like I mean you're still getting 4 guys, which is crazy. But like I was making sure like the average of them is like at least good instead of like it could be like really bad or really good.
You're definitely not upset playing it. Like that's what you're asking. I am gonna show you this card because I do think it's rather relevant here.
Okay.
For Warlock specifically, but.
Plague of Flames. Destroy all your minions for each one. Destroy a random enemy. Oh, that's cute. Okay, yeah, that is relevant because you can just like summon your 2 guys and then Plague of Flames like board wipe. Yeah.
So I think that's
relevant.
I think that is relevant.
Okay. I'm not in love with the cards that give you Invoke. Aside from like Veiled Worshipper, the other ones are like kind of mid.
Okay.
And if not like not good. And I feel like that plays a role here because again, like in Yu-Gi-Oh, we want to have like every card be just like good by itself, but then like also synergize with other stuff to make it like even better. And so like looking at this compared to like the Warrior and the Priest ones, like the Warrior one seems like way better and the Priest stuff seems really good too. Like it's like you would play those cards like almost if Invoke didn't exist for the most part. But the payoff is good. Like that's like the thing that's like the cards are bad, but do you care if like your payoff is like summon like a whole board of demons? So I think I'm going to, now the question is, do I want to pick Priest over Warrior knowing how this fucking mechanic works? So now it's 1 mana, 1/2. You get a random card to your hand, and then it's destroy a minion, get a random card. So it replaces itself, which is crazy.
It does replace it. I will also mention that because they're priest minions in particular, you could actually get another invoke. Like there is a way that to kind of chain it, right?
That's cute. That's cute. Yeah. That's if you hit it though.
That is if you hit it, yeah.
And then going back to Warrior, so the Ritual Chopper becomes a 2 mana 4/2.
For one turn.
At least the turn you play it. But that's really good. Like that's because that's better than Fiery War Axe, and that card was fucking crazy apparently. And then Invoke Galakrond, deal 1 damage to all minions. So you get 3 attack and you deal 1 to everything. So you can like kind of clean up a board with that. Priest is still really reactive.
Hey, you think Warlock's
I don't know.
not bad?
The Warrior stuff's looking pretty decent though.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
I think I'm still liking Warrior. My biggest issue with the payoff's really good for Warlock, but like the rest of it just seems like shit. To be honest,
that is fair. That is fair.
I could be wrong, but I think I'll go Warrior over Warlock.
Okay. So Warrior.
For all I know, you showed me the best class first. Like it's possible.
Maybe I did. I'm
We'll
gonna say based on your reaction to probably the last one, you're not gonna feel that way, but we'll get there when we get there.
All right, we'll see. We'll get there. All
right, this is Shaman.
I'm curious when this is all done. I'm curious to hear like the story of all of it. So Shaman's next.
This is the Shaman. Let me get the.
Okay. All right, Shaman. Woo! First Galakron, Battle Cry, summon 2/2 storms with Rush. What the hell is a storm?
A storm is just a 2/2 elemental. Like it just vanilla stats with Rush.
All right. Just vanilla. It's just okay. So it's just summon 2/2s. All right. Summon 2 4/4s with Rush. Okay. The other ones have Rush. They did have Rush. Okay. And then the final one, which looks really sick, summons 2 8/8s with Rush, and you get your Claw, of course. And then Galakron's Fury is summon a 2/1 elemental with Rush.
So
interesting.
Just to reiterate, when you look at Devoted Maniac now, it is a 4 mana 2/2 that summons a 2/1 elemental with Rush. Okay. Just so we're all on the same page. All right.
No, I'm aware now. I understand this.
Okay.
Same thing with the Taunt guy. It's a 5 mana 4/5 that also summons a 2/1.
Yep. All right. Here's the Shaman invokes.
Corrupt Elementalist, Battle Cry, invoke Galakrond twice. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, we haven't seen any of that yet.
Yeah.
So lower stats, but you get to. So okay, if you invoke twice, does that mean you get 2 2/1s?
Yep. You get 2
So
2/1s.
it's technically a 5 mana 7/5 in theory. Okay.
In theory, yeah.
5 mana 7/5 worth of stats across 3 bodies. Yeah.
Yes. There's this one.
Invocation of Frost, cool name. Freeze an enemy and invoke Galakron. So it's freeze and get a 2/1. Okay, that's pretty good. It's pretty cheap too.
And this is the payoff.
Dragon's Pack. 5 mana, summon 2 2/3 Spirit Wolves with Taunt. If you've invoked twice, give them +3/+3. So it's 5 mana for 2 5/6s?
With Taunt, yeah.
With Taunt?
Yep.
For 5? That seems pretty fucking good. So you're paying 7 mana for 16 worth of stats, and they're Rush, so you immediately can affect the board. That seems pretty good.
Yeah, so now you can start seeing though, like if I'm going against Shaman and I'm Priest, I'm pretty happy because Priest plays into it very nicely.
Sure. But again, it's still, you're at the mercy of them still doing stuff.
That's fair. That is fair.
Kind of
no, I'm just saying like you can kind of see like how they like the pros and cons.
I get it. No, I get it. Yeah. I get it. But typically it's better to be proactive than reactive. So it's interesting because even in its like mid form, it's still pretty decent because it's 7 mana for 8/8 and they're both Rush. So it's like you can affect the board immediately. So it's kind of like removal, but it's also minions. So it's like proactive. So it's like almost better than Priest in that sense. Because it's like if you want it to be removal, you can have it be removal. But if you want to just like have guys, you get guys.
Yep.
So I think it's better in that sense.
Okay.
I like the cards that invoke. I also, because especially like Corrupt Elementalist sort of curves into this pretty nicely because then you're like pretty close to being there. Invocation of Frost is also very cheap, so it's like you can just invoke. I don't want to say free, but it's so cheap that it's like basically free. And Dragon's Pack seems really good because you only have to invoke twice just to make them be 5/6s with Taunt. That seems pretty good. So I was comparing this to Warrior. I think I like this better than Warrior.
Okay, because the tempo. And
I like it's more like immediate because like my issue with the Warriors, like, yeah, you get these huge guys and stuff, but you still have to like play them. Where like from a tempo perspective, you get these big guys that you can immediately address the board with, or just have big guys to play big guys. So like even if they're on an empty board, you can just play Galakron and get 2 8/8s, and it's like, okay, better fucking do something about it, or I'm just gonna like kill you, right? And like Priest has the answers to that, but like the other decks may not potentially.
Yeah, that's fair.
I guess the Warlock kind of does with like Plague of Flames. And you're always getting like these 2/1s. I don't know. Like the value here just seems really good. So I like the Shaman over Warrior. I'm kind of biased because I always just like Shaman just like generally, but I don't know. I like this better than Warrior.
I will say the Shaman one probably looks the coolest out of all of them too. Like
they do look sick. Yeah, that's like
sick.
I'm kind of like I'm being a bit biased. I'll be honest.
You're fine. You're fine.
I don't know. I like it better than Warrior.
The last one I'm going to show you is Rogue. I'm going to remind you for Rogue that Rogue has Shadow Step. So the reason I mean that is because you can bounce invokes back to your hand and replay them. But
that's
also,
0, right?
Yeah, it's 0 mana. Shadow Step is 0 mana. Return a minion back to your hand. It costs 2 less.
Minion. Yep. Okay.
That also means for Kronks, you could play Kronks and bounce him back to your hand.
Ooh, that's cute.
That's why I think it's important to bring it up. Okay, and the Rogue one, I'm gonna have to explain the mechanic a little deeper, but we'll get to there.
Okay, first one, Battle Cry. Draw a card. It costs 0. That's already broken. Draw 2 cards. They cost 0. That's even more broken. And guess what? You draw 4 cards on the third form, and you get the Claw, of course. Okay, all right. I see why you saved this for last. And then you add a lackey to your hand. What is a lackey?
So during Rise of Shadows, I talked about Twin Spell already, and I didn't show you in the keyword video because I told you that this is like a whole package. Lackeys were the mechanic for the evil classes, and I will show you what they are during this time. I mean, I don't have to tell you that information. They were all available during Galakronds.
You're showing me 7 cards.
They're really simple to understand.
I know they are. Yeah. They're all 1 mana 1/1s, and they all just do a different thing. So basically, you get one of these 7 anytime you do this.
Anytime you invoke.
Okay. You discover a dragon, discover a spell, summon a random 2 costs, give a friendly minion +1 attack and rush, deal 2 damage, give a friendly minion +2 health and taunt, transform. Okay. All right. Interesting. Yeah. So they're all like pretty decent.
They're all contextually they're all good. Kobold Lackey, Ethereal Lackey, and Draconic Lackey, Goblin Lackey to an extent were usually like the best ones you can get.
Sure, that makes sense.
They're all good.
Yeah.
Witchy Lackey obviously is really good with a card like Devoted Maniac because now you're making a 4 mana 2/2 with Rush into a 5 mana random stat line, whatever it is, right? So it ends up being a lot better. Rogue also has these for their invokes.
All right, Praise Galakrond, 1 mana, give a minion +1 attack and invoke it. Okay, which is fine in Rogue because you have combo, so like that's a thing. 3 mana, Seal Fate, deal 3 damage to an undamaged character, invoke Galakron. Okay, some removal, sure.
All right, and this is their payoff.
Umbral Skulker?
Yep.
Umbral. Yeah, I don't know why that looks like an eye to me. 4 mana, 3/3, Battle Cry. If you invoke twice, add 3 coins to your hand. Ooh, fun. 3 coins to your hand.
Coins are...
So that means you get Yeah, I know what a coin is, Rarran. Okay. I don't even know what a coin is.
You said it like... Okay.
I was thinking because you can then theoretically Galakrond on 5, right?
If you wanted to, yeah, you could.
If you wanted to. Like, you might not be fully invoked by that point, but, like, you could hypothetically.
Yeah. So the Rogue one is really interesting because you really want to be fully invoked because 4 cards on 0.
Right, because 4 cards that are free in your game, that seems nuts.
Yes.
Yeah.
I obviously left this one to the end because I think it's the most flashy. So...
But is it good? That's the question.
Do you think it's better than Shaman?
If I learned anything in your game, like anytime stuff is free, that's like not okay. And you get to draw 4 cards and they're all free. I guess like the weird part about it is you're already playing Rogue. So you're already playing like a bunch of cheap stuff already because you want it like, I don't know if like combo is still like a thing at this point, but it's like if it is, you're already playing cheap stuff as it is. So like the reduction isn't as flashy as it could be.
Okay.
Potentially, because you're already playing stuff that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, because you're trying to combo with it just to get extra effects, right? So if you're just drawing, oh no, this is a hero. You can't shadow step this. That would be crazy.
That would be. Let me show
draw
you
4, shadow step, draw another 4. Yeah, that seems broken.
Actually, for the purposes of this video, I'm asking which one of them got nerfed in Descent of Dragons, but I am going to show you this that came out in Skullman's, which was 2 expansions later. I think it's very funny.
Lorekeeper Polkelt.
Yep.
Okay. 4 mana, 4/5 Battle Cry. Reorder your deck from the highest. Oh, that's crazy. That's such a cool card. That's so sick.
It was that. I love this card, but in Rogue specifically with Galakron, you would go play this on 6.
Yeah. Yep.
And then
you Galakron on 7 for max, and then you get all your crazy
But
shit.
you would go...
I get it.
You would get Kronks as your next card often, because that would be your 6. So then Kronk can pull out a Devastation the second you play your Galakron.
Oh, true. That's cute. God, that's such a cool card. Like that's like cards like this are why I love Hearthstone, because Like, we can't do this in our game. Like, imagine I play a card that I'm going to take all my cards in my deck and put them from highest level to lowest level. Like, that would take like 20 minutes. Like, there's no shot. Yeah. So it's cool that like a card like this exists. Do they have the opposite? Do they have it like reorder from lowest to highest, or is it just him?
God, I feel like they printed it recently, but I could be wrong. The only, I'm not 100% certain. Paladin has an effect that is this exact thing, but for 2 mana.
Oh, okay.
But it's a spell. It's a spell.
Oh, okay.
And I think it also draws a card. I can't. They keep nerfing that card and unnerfing it in Wild because of how disgusting it is. Like, it's weird. It's a weird problem for them to have.
Rogue might be winning here. Or are you baiting me?
Whoa, I'm not baiting you. I told you, wasn't it? Imagine I just showed you Polkelt and didn't say it was 2 expansions later. That he's so disgusting.
This seems so good. Like 4 cards for free in your game is just so good. It's like regardless of what they are. And you're getting lackeys every time you do these things too. So like you pop something and then you get a lackey, you give something in it. Praising Galakron's better too because you're always getting a lackey. So it's like you then have something to buff with it. But even then it's like good for combo and stuff too. So like whatever.
For the record, by the way, lackeys were a really good keyword.
They seems good. Yeah, like I don't think it's bad. This seems so broken. Like, compared to the Shaman one, like, this is just so degenerate. Like, I feel like people would just be finding ways to break this. Yeah, I'd go with Rogue. Like, this seems so good.
You're going with Rogue.
I think I'm going to go with Rogue.
Purely for the mana cheating effect.
Yeah, because, like, anytime I've learned about mana cheating your game, it's, like, broken as hell. And it's, like, you get to draw 4, and it's like, I don't know. Like, that just seems, like, my Yu-Gi-Oh brain is like, okay, how do we break this, right? Like, there's got to be some dumb combo that, like, with, like, the Lorekeeper guy that you showed me, that, like, there's got to be some dumb shit you can do with this. Like, like, the Shaman one's good, but it's not, like, broken good. Like, it just seems like good value. And, like, maybe I'm taking the bait here. I don't care. Like, draw 4 and everything's free. That seems way too good in your game.
Okay, that's, Let's go all the way back to the top.
You're like, this is the worst one out of the bunch.
I'll walk you through it.
Oh, I bet you are. I bet you will.
Let's start with this. Let's start with the warrior.
Let me get my beverage here. All right, go ahead.
Okay, you ready? Okay, Galakrond the Unbreakable was a very good middle ground. I showed it to you first for a reason because I do think it's one of the best one in a vacuum because people would just put it into their deck for the hero power. On top of that, if you build towards it, obviously it gets better. The Scion card was really, really good. And often what Galakrond would be is just a game winner for this. Like that, you could say the case for all of them for that, but like you're playing this one specifically to hopefully get a charge minion that's buffed, or you just using the hero power to smack your opponent down. So Galakrond got better after the mini set. But for the sake of what we're focusing on, which is Descended Dragons, Galakrond the Apocalypse was a really good middle ground. Priest was actually really shit. The problem with Priest is that you really wanted the value, but value doesn't win you games in Hearthstone if you're gonna die beforehand. You need to actually win the game. So Priest suffered because there was too many win conditions currently in the game that it just fell behind. I think the 1 mana 1/2 was like a really good invoke card, and so was Fate Weaver. But during the time of Descended Dragons, like time rip was too slow. You didn't care for it. Often the problem with Galakrond was like, you never got full value for destroying 4 minions. Like even if you fully invoked it, like you have to hope your opponent was actually playing into this. So most of them are getting like 2 kills. Now, I'm not gonna say Priest was bad because as the game developed and as it was still in standard, Priest did see play. I could be wrong, but I think I saw it play at the World Championship the following year. I think, or somewhere around there. It did see play in tournament. But during Descended Dragons, that was not the case. So Warrior ended up being better. Warlock is in a really weird spot here because Warlock
feels like it.
Warlock, like I think you really hit it. Like the invoke cards for Warlock felt really bad. And I showed you the Plague of Flames because that was one of the best synergies in the entire game at that point.
Sure, I can see that.
Really powerful. Like Dragonbite Cultist into Galakrond's Malice into Plague of Flames was 6 minions gone. Or 5 minions gone, which was extremely good. This is going to sound really sad, but just by playing Galakrond at its fully invoked for Warlock, you might have just used Plague of Flames just to clear minions. Like you really did not give a shit about the minions that were summoned. Like it was weird. It never really had like a huge moment in the metagame that like the Warrior had. Unfortunately for Warlock, especially for Descended Dragons, it was just not really the way you want to go for. That being said, super fun deck to play with. It was actually really interesting to play with it, but Warlock just never.
I can see that. Yeah.
Also, Veiled Worshipper, like the 4 mana 5/4 to draw you 3 cards. extremely good card. Like the deck,
That card seems very good. Yeah.
I think you could say the deck like lived and died by you drawing that card, but you would draw it pretty often because you're a Warlock, so you're lucky. Which brings us to Shaman. You actually identified it pretty quickly. This one's broken. This is the best Galakrond by far during Descent of Dragons. It was not even close. The thing about this Galakrond was it wasn't even the fact that you're getting 8/8s with Rush. It was the 5 mana spell. The 5 mana spell, if you went coin
that spell seems crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you went 5 mana or coin Corrupt Elementalist on 4, because that's both your invokes, into the 5 mana spell, the game was over. Like no deck in the game had the chance to recover, because once they use all the removal on that 5 mana spell, there's a chance you already have the other one, but also you're just playing Galakron like the turn after, right? So then now they need more removal.
It's just too much pressure. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It was so like, it was ridiculous. On top of that, there's one other card I haven't shown you, and I didn't want to show you it because I feel like it might have
given it away.
It might have pushed it too far of the edge, but obviously I've shown you this card before, but if you want to reread it.
Shutterwock, replete all the, oh Jesus.
So
yeah, that's pretty good.
What that would do is not only that would do all your invokes, that would also summon both 8/8s again. And then if you played Kronks, it would give you another devastation. So it was crazy. It was this crazy, like, no, once it started going, it was ridiculous to get past. You could not do anything with this. So they had to nerf it. They had to nerf it. They nerfed Corrupt Elementalist to 6 so that you couldn't play it before the Dragon's Pact unless you had the coin. And I think they made the buff on Dragon's Pact +2/+2. If I remember correctly, it was significantly nerfed. It didn't feel like you were dealing with that much more. But in its original state, it was disgusting. So that was the best Galakrond by far. But like, let me talk about Rogue for a quick second here. Rogue was, after Galakrond for Shaman was nerfed, I think you could probably say Rogue's was the best one. You're right. Okay. Mana cheating's broken. All the lackeys were gross. There are so many games I can not fondly. What's the opposite? What's the opposite of fondly? I hatefully remember.
Hatefully, yeah.
Of the opponent, my rogue opponent getting ethereal lackey, generating a card that generates another card, that generates another card, that somehow gives them a win condition. I lose. Or
fun.
You get Draconic Lackey. There's a card called Dragon Queen Alexstrasza, which is if your deck has no duplicates in it, you get 2 random dragons. They both cost 0. So like, if they keep generating that shit, it's like, okay, what's happening here? On top of that, Leroy Jenkins is still in the game at this point.
Is it really?
Yes, because Classic was rotated in Forge and the Barons, I believe. So what you would end up doing if you high rolled, obviously Lorekeeper Polkelt wasn't here yet. You can go Galakrond's Awaken, or you go Galakrond, you get Leroy. Leroy's now 0. So you go 0 mana Leroy, Shadow Step him, Leroy Jenkins again, Shadow Step it, Leroy Jenkins again, or you get Kronks and you do the same thing with Shadow Step over and over again till your opponent dies, because in one of the devastations is deal 5 damage to your opponent and you heal for 5. So like you're just burning your opponent with Shadow Step. Yes. Yeah. Yes, it was gross. After Lorekeeper Polkelt was added to the game, the combo was the following thing. Lorekeeper on 6, you go Galakron, Kronks, Leroy Jenkins, and then people would also tech in Questing Adventurer, which is a card that is 3 mana. For every other card you play, you get +1/+1, and that's a permanent buff as you continue going. So that's so like with the Umbral card, you get coins. You would just go infinite. Like there was nothing that would stop you. It was so fun. It was so fun. It was so fun. Like I need like that was so fun to play with.
Fun if you're doing it. Fun not if you're playing against it.
But the Shaman,
that's card games. That
is card games. The Shaman was disgusting. They ended up nerfing it.
The Shaman was the nerfed one. So they never nerfed the Rogue one. The Rogue one was fine apparently.
As far as I'm aware, I don't think they did.
That's so interesting.
I am actually incorrect. They did nerf it eventually. They made it so it costs 1 because the play pattern of Galakron into Kronks, Leroy, Shadow Stepping was just too disgusting that they had to kind of lower the bar. So at some point they did, but I believe that was after Lorekeeper Polkelt came out actually. Hold on.
Okay. But for purposes of this, it was the Shaman one that had
Got
it. Okay.
It's tough because I was holding the good ones until like way later on.
Well, of course. Well, it's funny because like you could have started with the best one and like worked your way backwards, right? And it's like, oh, maybe I think something else is better because I think you're gonna save the best for last type of thing. But no, I get it. I mean, it's so tough because it's like you said, the degeneracy with being able to like do the combos with like the draw 4 that costs 0 versus the craziness of the Shaman one. Like it's so tough because it's like the Shaman one, like I get it, but it still doesn't seem as degenerate as everything being free. But
yeah,
it's so tough. So tough.
We had this conversation with the Death Knights, right? Like the if you don't remember, the Druid one is so lame. People were like, this is so boring, but it ended up being one of the best ones because it's just objectively just a strong card.
It's not like, I mean, it's kind of flashy, but like we talk about sometimes where it's like it's just very efficient, right?
Yeah, it's just a good card. I'm actually wrong. They nerfed this card before Skullman's came out. That means before Polkelt was even added to the game, they nerfed it because the
Good,
combination.
So I'm right then. So I win.
Unfortunately not. But yeah, that's the Galakronds. Again, I was going to show you this
that's
way
cool.
earlier
cool
on.
mechanic though.
Dude, they don't do shit like this anymore. Like this was, I don't even think it would be.
Well, is this when they shifted like design philosophy or like Ben Brode left? Like,
no, Ben Brode left during Witchwood, which was the expansion Shutterwock came out. So if I'm thinking about game dev, they were probably just starting to work on Rise of Shadows when Ben decided.
But to be fair, from a development perspective, this could have already been in the works when he left because they usually work like a couple years ahead in terms of like cards and stuff.
As far as I'm aware, based on like current, they are about a year and a half ahead. So there is a chance. So
this would have been like while it was still under like his supervision then, right?
There is a chance they would have just started the expansion. There is a chance. But I'm not 100% sure if that's the case. But Ben Brode, if we were still under his philosophy, they would have not nerfed this card as early as it would have been.
Well, I've heard like that was like that was like the cutoff point when a lot of people feel like Hearthstone started to like go in a different direction, like card design wise. So I was curious if that had anything to do with it.
I feel like no. But I could be wrong, right? Like it's obviously I don't. Ben Brode, like I've done multiple. I wish I had I would love to talk to him in real life and have a conversation about this. But he wanted to make a card game for new players, so I don't know if Invoke and all these lackeys and all this stuff would have fit the bill because they didn't add Rush until like 5 years into the game, right? So it would have been interesting to see like how far a line he was willing to go, but also like. The con for Ben Brode was like he didn't nerf anything because he wanted people to come back into the game and understand what was happening without like doing a ton of research. So
that's true, right? Because it's like, I mean, Yu-Gi-Oh erratas its cards as well, but people hate it because then it's like those cards are now most of them were banned and then they errated them and then they were legal again, but most of them were awful because the erratas made them like unplayable. And it like that frustrates some players because like granted those cards don't see play very often, but like if they wanted to try to be like, oh, I'm gonna like play this card, right? Well, it's errated. It's not like how it used to be. So like I understand that. Like it'd be frustrating. It's like, oh, I'm gonna get back to this game and nothing's the way that it was. But now Hearthstone erratas everything like every like 5 seconds. So
I mean, I think they're using their online like client.
They're using the fact that it's digital to its advantage. Yeah, because like erratating digitally is way easier than physical. I get that. But, you know, if a classic person comes back and every card is different, then that's kind of weird.
I see. I don't know. I think I disagree with that. I'd rather the game change. I'd rather the game change for the people who are currently play it. The person left.
Like for me, okay.
I was gonna say the person left. Why am I focusing on the person that's no longer there rather than the player base that's still there?
I suppose, but like, okay, like from a Yu-Gi-Oh perspective, what we prefer is rather than like erratating a card, and maybe it's just because we're physical versus digital, but like Pot of Greed, right? Instead of them erratating Pot of Greed to put it back into the game, it's fun that they print new pot cards that are inspired by Pot of Greed, but they're not Pot of Greed, but it's like our way to play it in a more like fair sense, essentially, right?
Sure.
So it's like, we'd rather them just instead of them changing the value of a card, we'd rather them just make a whole new card that's like inspired by the legacy of the old card, but not a one-to-one copy of it. So instead of like changing the stat of something, just make like a new card that's like inspired by the card that you're changing the stat of. But the problem is they change like they change so many cards that I feel like that would be so hard to do.
Yeah, it's also I think like the Hearthstone cards are more than just like the cards, right? Because they put the animation in, they do the voice acting, they do like so it's hard for.
There's a lot more to it. Yeah.
But the conversation, like when it was Curse of Naxxramas, there was a card called Undertaker. The card was a 1-mana 1/2. Every time you played a Death Rattle minion, this got +1/+1 stats. What often ended up happening was if that hunter, it was called Death Rattle Hunter. If the hunter played that card on turn 1 and you didn't have an answer, the game was over. And that was in the game for like 4 months. And that was the
Oh, wow.
first addition to Hearthstone. Like Naxxramas was the first thing to be added outside of Classic. If I was a game developer, even if I'm thinking about like, oh, I don't want these players to be confused when they come back, I'm nerfing that shit in a week. Like I'm not letting the game suffer or the players suffer because I'm worried that the people coming back maybe in a month don't know what's happening. Like there's no way I'm leaving that. And it's
maybe I think maybe part of it is that also just from a physical card game perspective, they don't do bans or like changes or anything, right? We get it in like 3-month cycles where like we actually get like a banned or restricted list where like in your game, they can just tune something and a week later it's different, right? They're not going to like print a whole new set of cards or ban unless it's like very egregious, which there have been like emergency bans before. Unless it's like super egregious, then we just deal with it for 3 months. And I think that's just maybe the difference between like physical and digital.
He did base.
I guess it has its pros and cons.
Yeah, he based Hearthstone off Magic the Gathering.
Of course. Yeah.
Because of that logic, he probably took a lot of like the foundational things that like Wizards of the Coast was doing and kind of implemented it in the online fashion. And
yeah, sure.
I'm not going to sit here and tell you like the game was bad because he made these decisions. Of course not. Like the game was great and there's a reason why it's still here today. But yeah, I think in hindsight, looking back on it, like I wish he would have changed some of the things because like we had an instance where rotation, I don't know, you guys don't have it, but like I'm sure you've seen this before. Rotation is a huge deal to players. It is the pivotal moment where people will kind of decide, like, do I want to keep playing this game when half my cards are not available anymore? Like you have to make
it's funny because that's why Yu-Gi-Oh is so popular is because we are an eternal format. So like you can still play like your Blue Eyes White Dragon from 2002. That's like,
exactly.
You know, people like that. Right. So anyway, go on.
That's the pro and con there. The expansion before they did the rotation was the Grand Tournament, which was the like at that point by far the weakest amount of the weakest cards they've ever added to the game. It was not even close. So like if I'm making people buy these cards, and it's digital, I would buff some cards up to make your like my actual purchase feel validated that I did the right thing. But then with rotation, right, it also helps alleviate that problem because a lot of the cards that you just bought are not playable and they're also not being rotated. So like now I'm double dipping in this fact. And if you go look at Google Trends, that moment of them rotating and the Grand Tournament was the most amount of players the game lost. Like it's a huge crash because like I said, right, like if I'm buying $80 worth of cards and most of it, like 99% of these cards are unplayable garbage, I feel like shit. And then you're dropping rotation.
Welcome to Yu-Gi-Oh, my friend.
but then you're dropping rotation, right? So it's like, not only am I wasting $80, like now all these older cards that are actually playable are being rotated. Yeah. So it was a big, but now luckily for them, they dropped one of the best expansions they've ever had which is Whispers of the Old Gods post rotation. But some people probably didn't get to play that because they were probably too frustrated with the fact that they probably
were too disenchanted. So they're just like screw it.
Yeah. You know? So like having an online client, especially, I understand his philosophy, but I think hindsight, if I was trying to think of the longevity of Hearthstone, I would have made changes like earlier on.
I'd be very curious to read the comments on this video if anyone actually makes it this far in that if they like, because your community is like a Hearthstone community. So I'm curious if the majority of people actually enjoy the fact that they like will make these modifications and they do it relatively quickly, or if like they're against it and they kind of wish it's like a more traditional TCG philosophy. But I think, again, you being like the first digital card game, you're able to do stuff like this when like we weren't able to. So it might just be like I'm biased because I'm used to playing a physical game where we have to deal with the issues of it being a physical game where it's like there's distribution, like the product has to like make its way overseas from wherever it gets printed. Like there's all these like things from a physical perspective that a digital game doesn't have to worry about. And so maybe I'm just used to that. And so like, that's kind of just the way I prefer it cause I remember like first, because I played like a little bit of Classic. Like I remember when they would like modify the stats of things. And I remember like a lot of the people who played Yu-Gi-Oh who also played Hearthstone were like, ew, like that's just like weird because it's like they can do that. And so maybe it's just like we're not used to it because we're just physical players. But I'd be curious to see what your audience thinks about it just generally, because they're more like a Hearthstone dominant audience that like maybe they all love it and they're like, this is great from like a balancing perspective, or like maybe they all hate it. Like I don't know. I'd be curious to see.
The good thing about them constantly doing balance changes, I'm just going to continue this conversation because I have like infinite points out there.
Sure, no.
The good thing about them doing constant balance changes is that the meta doesn't feel like it's overstays its welcome. And it allows like them to make slight adjustments that make other decks that would be otherwise unplayable actually playable. And it lets a variety shine. Like, as much as I shit on this game, and as much as I'm burnt out, whatever.
You would never do such a thing.
As much as I could, right? It's in actually a really healthy spot. There's a ton of different decks that are playable, but they need to do these micro adjustments in order for them to get there. But
for that to be the case,
the cost of that, though, and this is the counter argument, is that a lot of the time when they release a new set, those strategies that are brand new to the game are often very powerful. So in order for them to allow a more variety metagame, very metagame, they need to nerf it. And therefore, the strategies that are brand new that were just added to the game are no longer like as powerful. They don't feel as good to play. So that's the counter argument against it. Would you rather have the new fun toys shine, or would you rather have the variety in the metagame? And like that
that's so different. That's so different with Yu-Gi-Oh, where like when a new set comes out, and if the previous decks are too good, they're going to hit the decks on the ban list in some form or another, whether they ban cards or restrict them or whatever, before the new cards come out, because they want people to buy the new cards. And so if the best deck is like a year or two old and the new cards like aren't good enough to compete with it, then they have to hit it from a business perspective, because then otherwise like people aren't going to get the new cards because like no one cares. And it's funny because like sometimes they've like done that, but they were like not aggressive enough, and like the old decks were still too good. So they're very convenient considering the video you and I just filmed like an hour ago.
Yeah. No, it is funny.
Yeah. So it's interesting, like between the physical and the digital, how like they tried to solve the same problem, but in different ways. Right.
There probably is no right answer either. Like,
I don't think so. And like, honestly, I don't envy their position. Like, being the game devs, having to like balance all this stuff. Like, our game has like over 10,000 cards. Like Magic has like, God knows how many. Your game has a lot of cards, right? It's like you're spinning fucking plates trying to make sure everything is like, balanced right. But there's so much to consider. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. It also like your game's even harder, right? Because you don't have mana. Like, yeah. They could. We
don't have mana, and it's an eternal format, so like we don't have rotation either. So like games with rotation, the card pool is way more finite for the standard like typical format that people play.
Yes.
But with our game, that's what's so funny is that like all the time a new deck will come out and it plays this random ass card from 2003 that never saw play, because all of a sudden it works in this exact deck, and that's very common in our game. So
I got you.
They have to ban it then, because then they're like, oh, we overlooked that one, ban that card too. So that's very common that happens. I wouldn't say it's like all the time, but it's like the amount of times where we have to pick up like old cards that were like basically unplayable in the old game. That happens all the time, which is like, again, a pro or a con, depending on like your perspective.
They can't test for everything. That's the other thing, right?
They can't. No, like unless they had like unlimited money to like hire 1 billion people to test stuff. They can't. No, because they don't know what the players are going to come up with, right? Exactly. They can assume, but that's the best they can do.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting conversation, because I wonder how successful Hearthstone would have continued being if they made changes like earlier in the days compared to what they do now. Because I think
because they weren't as aggressive from what you're saying early on.
They weren't. No, they didn't do like anything. Like it was very rare we got changes, and if they did do changes, it was I'm trying to think of like maybe what was the most impactful one. Maybe like I did that video with you as like the yearly Hall of Fame, which is they would take a card from Classic, which was like really, really unfortunate, and it caused design problems. But then we get like Dr. Boom, for instance, which was the best 7 drop in the game by a fucking mile, and it was like that the entire time he was in standard, was never touched. He was just there. And if you were the first one to play Dr. Boom, you were so far ahead of your opponent, because like now you have the best character 7 drop in the game. Like, could they have nerfed it to an 8 to make other cards playable? Absolutely. And would it have made the game healthier and more varied? Absolutely, because I'm sure people were sick and tired of going against the same card over and over again. So it is interesting. Regardless, that was Galakrond.
I was about to say, this turned into a whole like game design video in the second half. So there you go. We made our ad revenue. You're welcome.